Welcome to We Digress with Joy and Jess. Join hosts and longtime friends Joy Simpson and Jess Perry as they tackle the stuff of life the only way they know how, with honesty, faith, and humor. This is We Digress with Joy and Jess.
It changed from 3. It changed from 3, and then it was like, I think the last time we recorded, it was like 5 or 6, and we were like, "Oh, it's longer." So we.
Well, that's kind of nice. It's kind of nice to have a little bit more prep time. Not that it helped us at all, because we're still chatting away.
And on that note,
Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome to We Digress with Joy and Jess. I'm Jess.
And I'm Joy. Welcome.
If you can't already tell by what is going on already, today's going to be a very fun episode.
It's going to be a fun one, guys.
It's going to be a good one. So we are here today with our incredibly good friend we have known forever and a day. This is Autumn. Autumn is, where we've met 20 odd years ago at Hope.
I know.
And
Crazy.
In the 110 hallway of the dorm.
Yes. Rough Riders.
I actually was across. I was in the other hallway, but I spent
You were
so
in another
much
hall,
time
but you hung out with us all
your
the time.
entire hall. I was like, "This is where the party's at, man."
Right. And then we all started in the music department.
Yep.
And then you ended up kind of switching it up, making music like a minor versus your main, and became a teacher, which, you know, seems like we all kind of did that at some point.
That's right. I know, huh?
Right.
But yeah.
But of the three of us, I think Autumn has the broadest international experience. Joy is a close second.
Yes, she's for sure.
Autumn moved to Ghana, West Africa 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, 10 years ago.
12 years
12
ago.
years
Shut
ago.
up.
Wow.
I know. Crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah, and she is currently serving as director of Faith Roots Academy, working with an incredible group of kids who have been rescued out of human trafficking situations and are brought into City of Refuge Ministries there to heal and to learn how to be kids and to hear about the love of Jesus and to get an education, all that kind of good stuff. So we are, as you can tell, very excited.
We are very excited.
Of the interwebs to
That's right.
actually get to connect with Autumn.
She is our first international guest.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you have to help me out because I think I've only ever read your new married last name.
I know everybody.
I've been curious about this myself. I say it a certain way in my mind.
Is it Acheampong?
So close. Acheampong.
Acheampong. Okay. Acheampong.
Yeah.
See, that's not what I had in my head. In my head at all.
And
I was like, I think I had like Acheampong or something.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
I've heard them all. And my old last name was Buzzle, so I heard all the ones there too. So you know,
so for years her nickname was Buzz, and as we've gotten older, I wasn't sure if she would be okay with still being called Buzz because we called her Buzz for years. Even when we graduated, it was still Buzz, and so
if
a lot of people still do call me Buzz.
I call her Buzz.
That's what it is.
If you hear us flip and say Buzz, then you'll understand why.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, I mean, you have a fun last name, both ways, you know.
Both ways. It was they're both fun and long.
But you moved up in the alphabet, so congratulations.
Yes,
one letter.
You went from B to A, so that's really great.
Front of the
You're
line.
ABA now.
Yeah,
and she also has 2 beautiful children, Ava and Jace, whom I got to hold Jace the last time Buzz was here in California, and he was just
a big
so precious
Joy fan.
and such a good baby. He was my friend. I hated to leave him. Ava was like on her own. She didn't care really about anybody else.
Little social baby.
Because we were at Yona's house, of course, and there were toys galore.
That is Ava,
it was
though,
toys
man.
galore.
She does not care about anybody. She is Miss Independent. Don't tell her to
Yeah,
sit
she
down.
walked in and was like, slide. Just,
Yeah. I've got things to do.
Right?
Pretty much. So I got to spend time with Jay, so that was really nice.
Yeah.
I was so jealous.
He's good to spend time with. I know. Jess, we didn't get to see you. We're so bummed.
I know.
You had
That's the
just
hard part.
moved over to Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah. And we were going to try and make something happen in North Carolina, and then like the timing just didn't work out. So
just didn't work out.
That's right, because you're closer to North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm just a couple hours. Yeah, so that's good.
Next time.
For reals.
It's amazing how all those little states are so, like when you live in California for so long, everything just seems far. But when you go out of state, everything is a lot closer. You know what I mean? Like, California is like long.
Well, the West, all the Western states are gigantic. Then you get over to the Eastern side and it's like you can drive through 6 in a day.
Right. I remember going to Washington, D.C. for the first time when I was in like high school. And we like drove like to church in Virginia, and I was like, it was only like a 30-minute drive.
Yeah, you're like, what?
We were in a whole nother state, and I was just like, okay.
I know.
That was like my first lesson in how close those states really are.
Oh, it's nuts.
I was thinking about, each of us, we have like had these relationships with each other, and I mean, especially you two have kind of, you've experienced a year. We'll just say it that much. A year or two, maybe.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
How do we be intentional in relationships with each other when we're facing grief, when we're facing seasons that are really just tough?
I think it starts with honesty.
Yeah.
What I've learned in friendships is, like I said earlier, communication is key. In every relationship that you have, being honest about what you're feeling, being honest about what's going on, being honest about your anger, even if it's anger at God, so that your friend can help you get through that moment. I've experienced a lot of grief in the last several years, whether it was physical grief. And one of it just shows you, again, the love that God has placed in Jessica. When my uncle passed away, and it's coming up on the anniversary of his death, I looked up in this sea of hundreds of people, and there's Jessica and John. And it blessed me to see them, because I knew that was my friend. Like, that's my friend. I had other friends that were there, and I had other friends that were supporting me. Esther saying because my uncle, his twin, requested it. I don't know how I made it through any of that, but but I saw her there. And from that moment on, every moment of grief, every moment of trial, everything, she's been there. But it comes from being honest. So that, because she's honest back with me. I'm hurting. This is what I feel. This is what I'm going through. And it's not always just warm and fuzzy scriptures, because sometimes there are scriptures that she'll send me, but it's the reality of it's okay to not be okay. And it's the being able to just say what you need to say to somebody, we are often each other's therapists at times, I think, even though we both believe in therapy on our own. But sometimes, like I have something going on right now with my father, and I immediately called Jess, and it was late, her time. And she's like, I was about to go to bed, and something had me look at my phone, which was the Holy Spirit, had her look at her phone. And so I could tell her what was going on. And she called, and we prayed. It's the honesty, like it's honest, being true about what you're feeling and what you're thinking and what you're going through. Because if you're not, nobody's going to know, friend or foe, what's happening in your life and what you need. Yeah. What do you think, Jess?
Well, and I think, kind of piggybacking on what you've said, I think it's a willingness to let down the front of being, because we've all spent time in ministry, right? And we're very public ministry people in our own realms, and so it's hard to be vulnerable when you're in that position, because you are used to not sharing, because not everything is beautiful sometimes in our own hearts because we're people. And so it's having people and having the kind of relationships where you can very honestly let down the facade of being a perfect pastor and say, I can have these ugly thoughts, this ugly heart, this ugly mindset. And I can kind of bear open my soul in all of that gross and know that first off, Joy is going to still love me. She's going to gently and with love hold me accountable and be like, maybe that's not a good thing to do.
For sure.
Talk me off the ledge. But it's not going, she's not going to think anything less of me because she knows that she's been in that same position and the roles have been reversed too. Like, in fact, we had a situation come up this week where a thing that I did 3 or 4 weeks ago, like Joy kind of ended up in the same position for different reasons. Yeah. And she came to me and I was like, oh yeah, I know. I was just there. Like, I understand. Here's how it goes. Like, it was not, and there's no judgment. I understand. Like, we are just broken, messed up people, and that's okay. It doesn't disqualify us from ministry. It doesn't disqualify us from that. It just means that we are genuine with one another. And there is that is so necessary. If you don't have somebody in your life that you can be ugly around, and not in an abusive way, but I just mean to be vulnerable about, like, my life is a hot mess. Things are disgusting. This is like the wad of hair at the bottom of the shower drain is my heart right now. Like, and someone can go, okay, let's clean it up together. Let's just sit in the mess for a while until you're ready to clean it up. That has been so valuable for me in particular over the past couple of years, because I have had mess that was so painful and so raw that I felt like I couldn't get out of it for a while, and it was digging out of that mess. And Joy would offer suggestions or things or continually point me back to Jesus and stuff like that. But most importantly, she just sat with me in my mess. And there is so much value in that, because first off, it says that your mess is not too messy for someone to be there in the middle of it with you. But then second of all, it shows that you are worth having somebody else sit in that pain with you for. That sentence was remotely grammatically correct. But like you can sit in that mess, and someone says that you are worthy enough that I'm going to sit in that mess with you too until you're ready to get out of it, and we're able to get out of it. And that is hugely important. And yes, there's an intentionality about it, but I think at a certain point it just becomes the hallmark of someone who loves well and also is spiritually mature or maturing.
Yes.
That, like you said, we're not 20 anymore. We've seen a few things. And for better or for worse, now that we have seen those things, we have the ability to frame our perspective around those things. Like, we're not shocked by any of the stuff that happens. 20 years ago, we might have been shocked by a few things.
Right.
might have chased us away, but we're going to stick it out.
So I think that is the key to intentionality in difficult seasons, honestly, is just a willingness and an ability to be not only brutally honest, but to not be surprised.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Be like, oh my God, you think that? What is wrong?
I can't believe you.
It's like, I'm gonna pray for you. Like,
right. Seriously. Like, that's a little far. Sorry.
Maybe that happens, but it's just said in love as opposed to like.
And I think that there was part of me at one point that wasn't sure how this was gonna keep going. But I think I knew where we were headed when I had a very hard conversation with Jessica before the book ever came out, before we were really partners, before any of that. We had just done the photos, and I had to have this conversation, and it was completely led by the Holy Spirit. I was like, I don't want to tell her yet. And he was like, you kind of need to tell her. And I talk about this in the book, but I was in a relationship with a woman for a year. And I did not want to go into a partnership with Jess without her knowing that. Though I was not in it anymore, though I am not in it anymore, that was a season of my life that had happened, and that was going to be out at some point. And with her being my partner, I said, I don't want this to be a stain on you. So I was basically trying to give her an out. If you want to not work with me because of this thing, then you can do so. And her response was so chill that I was like, Jess,
are you still there?
Sure? I was like, but that's where I saw, I think the first time that I saw where God had grown her to, because I think if that conversation had happened in our 20s, it would have been, though still loving, it would still be a different conversation, I think. And it was like very hard, and I was like panicking and like stressed. And Jessica was so calm and so cool and so loving. And she was like, okay. And that experience did what? And we talked about it. And, you know, we went back and forth. Do we put it in the book? Do we not put it in the book? Do you want to put it in the book? Do you feel like the Lord? And I was like, this is a part of the journey that helped grow me in a different area that I didn't realize. Because like you said earlier, I was so looking for love so bad that I was open to anything that will love me. And that was kind of where I explained to Jess, and she didn't back away, and she didn't, we went full first force into working together after that. And I was just like, okay, well, I guess we're good. I guess we're okay. But I was, I think, still ashamed of the situation in a way that I was thinking she would be ashamed of me. And she absolutely was not. She loved me and said, okay, let's do this. And we've been creating together ever since.
One of the things that I learned early on in ministry, it was in my very first ministry. I remember I had situations pop up because I was doing youth and worship at the same time. And I would have kids come up and tell me heavy things, really heavy things. And I learned very early on, you can't let them see you have a really negative or harsh reaction, because then they will be afraid of sharing their stories with you. And they need safe places. And those early experiences, you know, as a mid-20s, fresh out of college, brand new in ministry, you know, kind of person trying to find my footing, I think really helped me a lot. And I developed this philosophy of, especially for the people who are closest to me, I want to be a safe place for people to fail, not because I anticipate that people are going to fail, and not because I want people to fail around me or think so lowly of myself that I just expect failure of people around me. But what I mean in that is I want to be a safe place for people to rest when they fail, because if they know that, if the people around me know that there is a place where they can fail without judgment, where they can fail without harsh words in return, without blame, without accusation, where I'm not going to come back and be like, you're an idiot. Why would you do that? What's wrong with you? What are you thinking? Why would you, all of those sorts of visceral reactions. Then I know that two things are possible. One, restoration is possible, because we have not further damaged the relationship by bringing trust even further. And that second of all, healing can happen in those relationships. And maybe the thing won't happen again because they don't feel like they have to hide. They don't have to double down on whatever the thing is, that the failure where that's been. And that's a tough place to live from time to time, because people that you love and trust will come to you with heavy, hard things, and you will be disappointed, and you will be hurt, and you will be wrestling with your own pain and reaction in those situations, while simultaneously trying to restore and honor the story for somebody else. And that takes some unwinding after the fact. But I will say this, having been in situations where people have told me very heavy things, joy situation, with people and family and friends, it is such a valuable thing for everyone's story and my own story too, because I get the blessing in being able to walk with people in their journey toward restoration and healing. And that blesses me because when we are used by God, we get the blessing too. And so to me, that's a valuable and important thing. And that is something that I'm very intentional about and very, the poker face, if you will. I take pride in my poker face when I know that bad situations are coming up, or bad conversations are coming up, and just having kind of a poker face and a loving face, because I believe that that's what God does with me when I come to him with the ugly and the messy. And I do, and it's ugly and it's bad. God, the voice in my head that's like, why would you do that? You're so stupid. That's my voice. That's not God's. And so like, I have to, if I'm going to model what it looks like for him, that's got to happen this way too.
Yeah. I love that. I think as you're speaking and I'm reflecting back, like on all these relationships over the years of people who've just sat in the ugliness with me. And when I look at it now, I'm like, my goodness, that brought such healing. It brought such healing. And I would not be the person I am today if I didn't have people that sat with me in the really ugly places. And right now with my husband, like he gets to experience.
Aren't they so fortunate?
Aren't they so fortunate? Yeah, some of the ugly things that my past has brought up, or my insecurities or anything, and he sits with me in it, and then he speaks truth into it when I'm ready to hear. And that in itself has brought a lot of healing, and a reminder that this voice that sometimes is happening up here, it's not always right. It's not always truth. And we need those people in our lives that will speak truth in love when we're ready to hear it. And that's what brings healing. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So what would you say to somebody who is seeking a friendship like this, or is in a place of loss and is looking for somebody to lean in with them? How do people find this kind of relationship? How do they dig in? How do they learn to trust the people around them?
Let
me ask the hard question.
Right? Jeez.
Yeah, that's a good one though.
I was told this was going to be a softball interview on it.
After this, I'll go light. No,
I think the key to it, I don't know that I necessarily have any wisdom for how to find that person, because I think so much of it is just the empowering of the Holy Spirit and kind of the moving of God in that situation. And first, I think the cliched Jesus answer is pray about it and ask God to provide. Because I think it's accurate. But also, I think that there is some discernment that you really have to have. Because like I mentioned before, not everybody's worthy of your story. And there are people who are going to say they are worthy of your story. But they really aren't. And you have
Facebook is not worthy of your whole story.
Holla.
That is true.
Facebook might be the mechanism by which sometimes that happens, but
not always.
I just think that there are so many people who prove themselves over and over to not be worthy. I mean, friendship is hard.
Yeah.
Under the best of circumstances. We are busy. We all have busy things going on in our lives. It's hard to connect. And I'm grateful that Joy texts me every morning when she gets up, because I'm so bad at that her intentionality about saying good morning is like, okay, we can have the conversation now because my brain's off doing this other thing. But like there is a discernment of knowing that somebody is going to be worthy of handling your story. And that is not a prideful thing. And I don't mean it in a prideful thing, because first you also have to be someone who's worthy of somebody else's story. But
that's it too.
Like if you are working on being worthy of a safe place for people to fail, to be worthy of their story, to love well, all those things. I think sometimes we choose friends like we toss out like a farmer scattering seed and we hope that something sinks in like good soil and grows. And okay, fine. But that also means that we can be vulnerable in places that are not beneficial. You know, there have been so many times where I have almost shared parts of my story with people because I thought, oh, this is going to be a good person. And then they would say or do something. And I went, oh, they're really not. That's not the person that can sit with me in this mess. And so I think it's having wisdom and again, not expecting people to be a certain thing that they are incapable of being and just being okay with that and going, I love you. You're not the one. We're going to go back to the drawing board on this and I will be this level of friend with you, but you don't get this level of access to my heart without earning it, you know?
Yeah. I think also like, you know, just piggybacking off of all of that, we have to know the difference between what a friend is and what an acquaintance is. And an acquaintance is not bad. I think we've always kind of looked at that's not my friend, it's my acquaintance. So I keep them in this box over there. Having acquaintances are great because those are opportunities for networking. There's opportunity for friendship growth. It's opportunity, but you just have to know the difference. And then we live in such a, I guess back in the day we would say a microwave generation, but now we live in like an air fryer generation where everything's like gets quick, you know, it gets crispy quick, it gets cooked through quick and all these things happen. And we expect that to happen in our lives and in our friendships. And these types of relationships, not only, they take time and they take nourishment. Just like if, you know, she was talking about planting and seed, you know, growing, you know, you plant a seed and you have to actively make sure that it's getting what it needs in order to grow. And so you have to make sure you have the right soil. You have to make sure that you have, you know, you're watering it, but not watering it too much. You know, you're not being overwhelming, but you're trying to learn how to balance yourself so that you can be good to the person that you're trying to build this relationship and this friendship with. And also, again, vulnerability, being open and being honest, being transparent, being okay with your own ugly so that somebody else is okay with your ugly. Because if you're not okay with your ugly, you're not going to think that somebody else is okay with your ugly. You know what I mean? So it's sometimes building these friendships are knowing who you are, learning learning, you know, what it is that not only someone can bring to you, but what do you bring to them? What is it that you guys have that, you know, that you can bring to them? How can you balance out that relationship? And then I think, also just being, super just real and raw as possible. And if you don't feel that you can be like that, like she said earlier, sitting in the ugly, if they can't sit in the ugly with you, they're not it. And everybody, and it's okay because everybody does not get that opportunity. Like Jessica said, everybody, you know, that's why I said, know what an acquaintance is versus a friend. And I think we put friend labels on everyone sometimes and we realize, oh, that's not exactly my friend. And it's okay that they're not, you know? And so
not everybody has to be.
Also just making sure that, like she said, discernment, just kind of like truly like Holy Spirit activate, like show me, lead me, guide me to my people. You know what I mean? Like there was a season that I went through that I felt like I lost a lot of my friends and God surrounded me with such intentional women at the time. There were not only Jessica, but like 2 to 3 other people that I did not necessarily have that type of relationship with previously, but somehow ended up in these situations where, God allowed me because I didn't shoot at the mouth just to shoot at the mouth because I was not in a place at that time to really like just tell everybody my business, but I was still functioning and trying to function and trying to move past and try to grow and try to move forward. And God placed me in situations that he allowed me to get to know some of these women that helped me through that moment. And my friendships with them are now changed because of that. Whereas they were acquaintances before,
right.
or a person I went to church with before, who are now more of a friend and a sister to me, if that makes any sense. So that's what I think about the whole situation, how to build it and how to find someone to be there. And I, not to be super deep, I really do believe that God opens the door and he opens the opportunity for you to meet those people that will be your intentional, and those people that are going to help you grow, and those people that are going to enhance what you have. We add salt to food to enhance the flavor. And that's exactly what we need to do in friendships. We need to salt each other enough to enhance the flavor of the individual person. And each person, if you put salt in chocolate, is going to taste different than when you're putting salt in chicken. And both things are great. It's just a different way of layering the flavor.
Yeah.
Right.
I like
well, now
that.
I'm hungry.
That's good. Give me some chocolate ice cream and some chicken, man. I'll dip that chicken in that chocolate ice cream and we'll just go for it.
But let me ask you, Adam, because one of the things I remember thinking when we first talked about it, and then when you first went to Ghana, and actually I think it was back when you did that little stint in Kenya for a second. You know, one of the things that when you said that this is going to be a thing, I'm going to do for a year, and then 12 years later,
1 year,
1 year. That's all it's going to be. But one of the things that I wondered for you is that is such a cultural shock, not only just in learning a new culture and moving to a culture that the everything is different about for the most part over there, but then also not having your support system on even remotely close to the same time zone that you are. Like, how have you found maintaining relationships with people that go back with you a long ways, like here in the States, and then developing those new relationships there when you're in sort of this totally different perspective and cultural point of view? Like, how has that been for you?
Yeah. I think friendships have been one of the biggest, I shouldn't say just friendships, I should say relationships, period, have been one of the biggest challenges being here. And a big part of that is just combating loneliness. Like, and I'm sure you guys know what loneliness is like in ministry, first of all, because you do have a bit of a facade that goes up. And then as you're, for me, I'm in ministry with people, and I'm a completely different culture, and I have completely different life experiences that match nothing that they have experienced in their childhood. And so even my life experiences, like when I try to teach on them or when I try to explain something from my perspective, it is not understood because there is nothing that's the same from how we experience life. The only thing that is the same is that we have a faith in Jesus. And so that there have been a lot of challenges. I think a big part for me is that I am I don't know how you would put it, but I'm a person who I like to keep my relationships close. So I'm super intentional. My friendships and my support system actually, over the years, I have had these same supporters since I left, and I have added to, but very rarely had any leave. And a part of that is that I am very intentional about like communicating and just wanting them to know that they are they're partnering with what God's doing here. It's not just that they're some random people that are giving me money or praying for me, but that they're partnering in what God's doing. And then I thank God for Marco Polo and for WhatsApp and for like these apps, because when I first came here, we moved out to the bush and we had very little internet access. And I probably was able to get online like once a week. And I called my family like once a week, and it was pretty minimal. But now I'm able to talk to family and friends almost every single day over Marco Polo or WhatsApp. So those things have really grown over time. The technology has developed like this.
Yeah.
Like this was never even a dream. Yeah. My goodness, that you could just get online and chat with people. And I'm all the way in Ghana and you guys are halfway across the world. But I think loneliness has been one of my greatest challenges. And I think as I've gone through the years, one of the big things that God continues to remind me, because it will go through these waves where I'm like, I am feeling so lonely. It is so hard to not have a best friend that is right next door to me that I can call and chat with and can know my ugly stuff and I can talk to. And he continues, like the word that he continues to give is like, where is your dependency?
Right.
And who are you depending on? Are you depending on somebody else to fill you up with the words that you need to hear? Or are you learning how to depend on me? And so it's been this constant state of like, let me take control of how I control my own loneliness and my own relationships and then surrender. Like, let you deal with this. And so there's been seasons where my door has been a lot more open and I've had more staff, more kids over, more people participating in my life. Other seasons where it's been really close and I've depended a lot more heavily on people back in the States to provide encouragement. Some seasons where it's been a lot more like friendships with expats or other missionaries that are in Ghana and just building those relationships. Other seasons, like now, it's primarily my family is my number one relationship because I've got 2 small children that need attention 24/7, and 2 teenagers. I have 2 foster boys, and
you have the boys,
that dynamic just requires a lot of attention. So my door's a lot more closed to the outside as I focus on the relationship that I have with my family. So I think every season it kind of, even if you talk to my husband, you would hear how many times I've cried to him, like, I love you, but I just want a friend. And he's like, okay, well, how are you reaching out? How are you engaging with others? Are you opening the door for conversations? Are you providing the space for them to feel comfortable to come and talk with you? And then other seasons where I'm like, I don't actually need that right now because my life is full and busy and that's not the need that I have. So yeah, it's been a wild journey. It's not always been the easiest, but I think that challenge with loneliness, just in ministry in general, whether you're married or single, whether you're in ministry with other people or in ministry on your own, I think that loneliness, man, that lie of loneliness can really affect how you interact with people and the things that you believe in your head. And so it's just that back and forth of dependence and surrender, that eventually kind of works that out. Yeah.
Well, and I would imagine that transition, at least initially, and then probably in waves going forward, of not being in the community that you had been in physically, because we all of us have a tendency to be out of sight, out of mind. And that's not, there's a reason it's a cliched saying, like I imagine that was probably a pretty tricky transition after the first few weeks to realize that life was going on, because life was happening for you, but life is happening for people back home in very different ways. And like, it's hard to be separated and to kind of not long for what had been and the ease with which those relationships had happened before, Yeah. Because you were also in your early 20s when we weren't as smart about intentionality. Right?
Yeah.
Where things came easier.
Yeah, it did force that a bit. It forced that hand a bit. And I think too, one of the things that I have said is that I love that I live in Ghana, but it's interesting because even the friends that I have built here, it can be challenging to feel that we speak the same heart language, even if we all speak English.
Right.
And then the interesting thing is, as I've been here longer, I go home to the States and I visit family and friends, even people who've come out here and been a part of what we've done out here. And I go back and visit home and I realize that we don't connect on the same heart language because they have not fully experienced living life full time in Ghana. So it's this weird dynamic that you're kind of always in this in-between space. You just never are fully home. And if anything, it reminds me that, you know, we're not made for this earth.
Right.
But that can be challenging at times because there's never a complete understanding. There's not a single person that will have a complete understanding. And that's true for everybody, realistically. Like, Jess, I would never have a full and complete understanding of what you've been through with the issues that you've had in ministry. And Joy, I've never had an experience of where I've lost one of my best friends. I wouldn't know, you know, but we can still stand in the gap.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and even if we haven't had those full experiences, we sit there in the middle with the people that we love. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I think to a small degree, I understand this much, like you said, can't be full,
Right.
but kind of that same thing. You know, we've gone back to California 3 times since we moved. And 2 of the 3 have been for funerals. And so you see people and you get together with people and you realize that, gosh, we now have these totally separate lives because we're across the country, and the experiences that I have, I'm not fully integrated here yet. So I don't have quite all the same people and relationships and depth and learning church, but I'm also not there anymore. And so their world's now moved on without me. And
isn't it a strange feeling?
It's this odd in between. And so it's in fact, John and I mentioned the first time that we went back out was for Joy's birthday last year. And we had only been here 3 weeks. And even after just 3 weeks of being in Georgia and then going back to California, we were like, this isn't home anymore. This is weird. Like,
weird thing.
We've been gone 3 weeks. Like, I've been on vacations that long, you know, like this is, and it was still home, but it was different. And so I think there is this sense of finding your home, finding your home in Christ. You know, if you want to get super spiritual about it, but to a certain extent that's true. It's like finding that stability where you can, and then accepting the relationships around you for what they are and not what you wish they would be.
That's good.
That's good.
And then when you have the opportunity, you can grow them, but to be okay with where things are for the season that they are in. Because I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. Like, I have to have intentional relationships, and I'm a bad friend.
I need a best friend right now.
And it's funny. I always joke, and I tell Jess, I'm like, no matter what friends you make in Georgia, you have to let them know they're not as important as I am. But I do want her to have a community. You know what I mean? Because I know how it feels, and it's the crazy thing is too. The closest people to me do not live in California anymore. One is my god sister Shamika, she's in Texas, and then Jessica's in Georgia. And
so it shifts your feeling of home too, even though you're home.
My feelings for sure. I mean, I still have friends that are here, but I'm closest to them. And so that makes it a little difficult. And, you know, when I travel, I just came back from Texas not that long ago, and it was an experience because San Antonio is a lot. It's huge.
It's a different world.
The freeways are weird.
So much.
It was hot. Like, it was just a lot going on, but it was good to be with her. And then I'll hopefully be going to Georgia soon so that I can be with Jess. And I think on my end, my fear is, do I ever leave? Do I go too? Like, do I get out of California? And like, I keep... Jess wants me.
But I want everybody to come.
Jess wants me in Georgia for sure. And it was funny because a few years ago, Shamika, my god sister, was like, you know, you're not going to be a California resident forever. And what she was saying was that you're going to be traveling so much doing ministry that you're not going to really be home. She's like, so honestly, you can live 6 months in Georgia and live 6 months in Texas with me. And I was just like, and then I've had all these like, kind of like people that God has kind of like said similar things, people who don't know each other, who are like,
interesting.
I just feel like you're supposed to move out of California, blah, 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 blah. I have been praying about it. I honestly don't know, but I've also seen moments where Jessica and I are together doing things in person, though internet works wonderful, though we work well still, you know, we figure out times. Sometimes that can be a little bit of a struggle.
As we try to figure out time for this. Yeah.
You know.
But I don't know. I don't know if it's my fear of leaving or if I just really haven't heard God for myself yet in regards to leaving. And I told Jess, I said, once I get out there to visit, I feel like, and I'm not saying this is what God said, but I feel like I'll know something once I go visit. And so
have a better picture.
That's been like the challenge in my mind with everything, because I believe wholeheartedly, not just in the friendship, but in the things that God has called us to do together. And there's some things I feel like once we go full force into it, we need to be together. And I know she's not coming back here. So
gas prices are too crazy. That's why.
Gas prices
and house
are
prices
insane.
And all the prices. My goodness.
The inflation in California has been, let me tell you guys, pray for our wallets out here, because it is nuts. I was like, inflation happened and our paychecks didn't go up.
Right? So, come on, where's the cost of living increase?
The cost of living increase has not happened. So, but that's where I struggle in that sense, where I'm trying to figure out what to do in regards to myself. And then I have my mom and my grandmother, because we all live together, and I help my mother with my grandmother who has some slight dementia going on. And so me leaving, though I travel for stuff anyway, like I just preached in Arizona not that long ago, a couple weeks before that. I was in Texas. When I was in Esther, we were touring a lot. So I'm used to not necessarily being home, but this is still home, you know? Right. And so it's an odd dynamic. So pray for me, y'all. Because I don't know yet. Like I see things and I feel an inkling, but I don't, it's not solid in my spirit yet.
Yeah. Being in an in-between season, man. It's tricky to kind of like just not know. Yeah, our family's kind of in a similar kind of in-between season. And it's tricky. The unknown is just tricky. Yeah. And I keep telling my husband, are you guys Enneagram people?
Yes, sort of, kind of. My coworkers really
a little bit.
So I'm familiar.
So I'm an Enneagram 2, which is a very present focused person. And my husband is an Enneagram 5, who's a very future focused person. And he's constantly thinking 10 years down the road. And then he's like, okay, this is what we got going on. And I am like trying to jog to catch up with like the vision that he has. And I'm thinking like practicalities, like, how are we going to have money for that? How are we going to do, you know, and he's like, God's going to provide, have faith. And I'm like, I have faith for today, not for 10 years down the road.
That sounds like us, kind of. It's kind of weird. That literally sounds like me and Jessica.
I bet you $5, Joy, you're a 5. Because
I'm pretty sure.
When you were
from
talking
this
earlier,
conversation, I was like,
2.
Yeah. two with a 3 wing. So
yeah.
I'm like, that's literally a conversation that could have easily been me and Jessica. Like, truthfully, so I'm a little more like Richard.
So I understand.
Yes, it's just that unknown. I'm like, he's already jumping so far ahead, and I'm like gasping to try to keep up, because I'm like, no, I've got to like figure out the day to day. Like, how am I gonna, you know? And I just don't do well with unknown. It's hard, man. But he's like,
it is hard.
Let's go for the unknown.
It is hard, but I think part of it is from my background, church wise, because I was in a ministry that was like, it may not be here today, but but it will be here. And it may not be tomorrow, but it could be in a year. And so that's the type of ministry I grew up in, where I literally saw lame people walk and get out of wheelchairs and go and walk and never go back to a wheelchair, where I've seen actually people have cancer and then stage 4 given a year or less to live, and they live 10 plus years more. So it's like, I grew up in that. And so that is ingrained in me. And I just had a conversation with someone the other day, and I was hot because my faith was being questioned. And I said, let me explain something to you. I literally believe God can do anything. Like literally believe that he can do anything. I believe that there can be money in your bank account that you didn't know was coming. That's the kind of faith I have. I believe in checks in the mail from royalties that you didn't know were happening. I believe that God can literally open up every door. So that is not my issue. I had to explain to them concern and worry and doubt are different things. I can be concerned and still have faith.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Like I went completely like, I was mad. I told Jessica, I was like,
I went off with my faith.
I went off. I was like, don't do that. Do not do that.
That is so
because
funny.
It's just so ingrained in me. And I'm a walking miracle. You know what I'm saying? Like everything that my doctors told me that at 15, 16, that I would not be able to do. I'm 40. I may do it in pain some days. I may have bad days, but I am literally walking, moving, talking, using my hands, doing everything they didn't say, even wearing heels again eventually because of my knee. But they told me at 16 I'd never wear heels because, you know, my legs or whatever. I was wearing them for up until 3 years ago, until I had a knee injury. But it's like, I may not have been healed completely from the illness, but that illness grounds me sometimes, and it helps me remember that I need to trust God. But I'm still here. Whereas they said it was going to be completely opposite. I have a mutation disease that took a lot of people out when they were toddlers. I'm 40. You know what I'm saying? Like I just have this big faith, and I've always been this way. And I didn't realize it until how crazy it can sound, until Jessica and I started working together. She's like, okay, whoa, Nelly.
Because I'm you, Autumn, because I live in the how do we get, like I'm with you. Let's go. Let's get there. But how do we get there? And what do I need to do to get there? And how?
Give me the step by step.
Where am I packing? Like, what am I putting together? What's the dress code? And I'm sitting there thinking through all the things that need to happen in order for that to happen. And I think that's why the partnership works so well, because I bet you $5, as frustrating as it is, when you and Richard work together on it, he has the dream and the vision, and you have the know-how to put it together to go. And together you were going to go farther, because he would probably have all these visions and no plan to make it happen. And so it would never happen. But because you were there, you may be like, whoa, pump the brakes. We're not going to go there quite as fast, because I see all of these things that have to happen, but we'll get there. And here's how we do it. And so it's that partnership that works so well. And that's how Joy and I are. So she comes and she's like, let's do this. It's to the point where if I have a thought about something, like I'm almost afraid to say it out loud, because Joy's like, let's go. And I'm like, no, it's just an idea. It's just a thought. I don't have time. I'm not ready. I can't. But this is my list of things to do, and I don't have
and I'm like, let's go. Like, always
that's always let's go.
Just ready to
That's
rock and
so
roll.
funny.
I'm ready to go.
I need some coffee and a nap first. Let's go.
It's now to the point where I'm like, let's go. I'll do research on how to do it, and then go back and say, okay, this is how we go. Like I'm learning a little bit. I'm still more like, woo, shoot for the star. And she is like, okay, calm down.
The Lord must just sit there in
yes.
heaven and watch us all and be like, oh, y'all funny.
I know, right? all these interesting plans you're trying to make. Oh my goodness.
See, and here's the thing, like if it's something that I didn't think that didn't go with what we're already working on or what we're already doing or what God has already shown me, then I wouldn't be like, okay, I would be, more like, let's table it. But when there are things that connects with my spirit about what we've already got going on and things like that, I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah. Let's make this happen.
I know. But it does, because I've seen where we're going, and you just are trying to catch up. So I see it. I've been telling her, I see the full studio. I see a staff. I see the conferences not just being the one time. I see it being able to be in different places. I've seen all these things. It's just because, like, okay.
I'm like, hold up, I need to know.
Your lips to God's ears is like her favorite line to say.
Like, make it happen. Oh, Lord.
I'll have dreams and I'll call her and say, hey, so this is what was in my dream. And it was funny because when she first showed me the original house in Georgia, and I had a dream about us recording and having our part-time studio, it was literally the room that she showed me. Now that they have a new house that they bought, she told me that the room looks similar to the other room. So it's
almost identical.
It's the same dream.
Exactly.
It just has carpet. That's the difference.
Exactly.
That's so funny.
Actually, they don't have carpet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I feel you.
That's us for sure. That's us. These are our daily conversations.
So awesome. It's so awesome. At least I know somebody else out there is experiencing my trauma.
Well, when you were like, I'm gonna throw this man. Just text me and I'll be like, girl, yes. Let me tell you.
Yesterday I was like, seriously, you've got to like slow down 5 years for me, because I'm like really struggling to keep up here. And he's like,
that's
you're
funny.
right. I'm going a little far. I'm like, thank you. I just need to like catch my breath. Not that they're bad ideas, because it's usually amazing ideas, but it's like, I don't know how we're gonna get there, and it's stressful.
I'm already on merchandise for conferences, and she's like, okay,
we don't even have a conference yet.
I'm like, and in my brain, I'm like, great merchandise. Okay, we need a design. I need to take it. We need to find a supplier.
In my head, I see it, and usually what I see in my head, even if I don't tell her that's what I see, she still makes it happen. So I mean,
it's amazing.
God works it all out. And I think he just sometimes
he does.
I think he just sometimes laughs at our chaos.
Yeah.
Like in a fun,
works
in a
it
nice
out.
way. Right. Oh,
he
man.
definitely works it out though. So that's why we said you'll see some stuff coming, because
it's coming.
I believe.
It's coming. Jessica's over there biting her fingernails.
I believe I need to learn to wake up earlier in the day.
One thing I told her, I'm like, I'm a lot. So
that's okay, because I'm a lot too.
When I'm too much, just tell me to calm down. That's all you got to do, because I can be a lot.
I think the next step is I'm just going to give Joy a journal and be like, write down all your good ideas in here. And then I'm going to go through like half a page a day. And then
half a page a day. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
And then I'm literally editing 2 books right now.
Oh my gosh.
For me.
So I'm editing 2 books for her. I may end up doing the art for the one, which we don't, the kids book. Hopefully the other artist comes through, because it'll be better if I'm not doing it. And then we're moving into a new house. As I'm in my husband's office because we're still moving in. Our anniversary is Monday. We're going out of town next weekend. We've got to move out of our apartment into this house. Like, we're having our bathroom remodeled right now. So if you hear stuff in the background, it's because we're having a bathroom like jackhammered out. And it's just, I'm sitting there going, and it's October. We're recording this in October. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much to do. And then Joe's like, what's this? And I'm like,
I try to be sensitive to the fact that she has a lot going on, and she can always tell me no.
And I work an almost full-time job. So I'm like, oh golly. I'm just grateful.
Yeah.
Like, my boss was like, so we could give you some more hours. And I would love more hours, but I'm like, I can't. I have too much stuff.
I don't have enough going on.
I don't even know how she
I've
functions.
got too much
I don't
going
know
on
how
right
I
now.
function. I don't even know how I function. I definitely don't know how she functions because, though she does a lot of, I always tell people, even when she's not with me or she's not visibly shown, I always say, and you will never hear me not say, I cannot do what I do without her.
Well,
whether
I none of my stuff would happen without her because she's the spark person.
You know what I'm saying?
So.
Like, it doesn't happen, So, I mean,
that's right.
The cover of the book, she edited the book. She's working on the kids' books. We're doing all this other stuff together. She edits our shows. She's the producer and co-host. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do all the typey things, and then she does everything else. And I literally don't do any of it without her. And so even I did a Q&A in Arizona at the book signing I did there, and they were like, well, do you guys travel together? I said, not yet. Because that was one of the questions.
We're getting there.
And I said, not yet. I said, so just pray. And so one of the questions was like, does she have a full-time job and do you have a full-time job? I was like, yeah, I teach music and theater to kindergarten through 5th grade. Huh? Like, how do you guys do this?
The hustle is real.
The Holy Spirit.
That's right.
The Holy Spirit. I'm serious. It's all God, because I don't know. Like, I just finished. I normally have the kids' script done like way ahead of time because, not only do I do the shows, I write all of my kids' shows.
See, and she's so on that too, though.
So I was just like trying to, and I try to base it on like the personality of the different groups because my 5th graders act like they are 29 and not 12 and 10 and 11. So I have to acquiesce to this generation and not make it too like cheese terrific because they're like, not swap, Miss Joy. And so
we're not doing this.
Writing
whole thing,
shows for this generation is completely different. So, and I was telling them that, I said, but God makes it happen. He really does. And he graces us to get the things done. And when it's something we can't do, we can't do. And I have to be okay with that because she's generally fine. So,
because there's only so much, my brain just stops at some point.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and you know this, you have 2 teenagers, you've got 2 toddlers. Like that's and all the other kids in the area, like that you were responsible for, helping their intelligence grow and teaching them and growing them and ministry partners and stuff for the school and teaching and training up your teachers, like all this stuff that you've got going on. Like we all get pulled in so many different directions. So my bringing it back full circle, like if you can't be as intentional as you want to be in relationships, have some grace for yourself in that because
there you go.
Everybody's in the same boat. Everybody wants to be and has every good intention and life gets in the way. And maybe we could all do a little better about making those improvements where we need to. But the reality is that we're all going about 7,000 different directions at high speed all the time. And, and we have to be intentional about the relationships, but if you can't be to the level that you think you should be, like, I don't know, maybe like take a breath and be okay with it for yourself.
Be okay
like,
with it. Yeah.
And I think what Joy was saying earlier too is like, be okay setting boundaries for your own health and stability for you. And then I think the other thing that I've learned is I need a team man to do half of what I do. So it's as an Enneagram 2, I'm not great at asking for help. Richard will tell you, he will say, you do not ask for help. You stand there and make like noises and then expect me to know what they mean. And instead of just saying, could you please help me with this or whatever? And so I'm working on getting better at asking for help and then depending on the people who God has put in the positions
That's
to be able to serve and not say, I have to do everything and I can do it better than any of you. And I have to be able to say, you can do the job. Even if I feel like I could do it better, you can do the job. And you should do the job. You should do the job that God has called you to do. Yeah. And I have to give them permission to do it, even if
that's a hard thing.
Even if my internal stuff is moving.
It's a hard thing to let go. Like that was one of those lessons I had to learn, and I still constantly learn. I think that's the only reason I wouldn't be a 5 is because I am so used to doing everything on my own. And so when in relationship with Jess, when she offered certain things, I was like, I don't know, like I can, but literally she can do most things better than I can. But there are teams and things that I've done, even at work, you know, when it's show times and I have to try and trust our staff, but then I'm directing the show and then telling them to control the kids and then and I'm like, I can just do this on my own, when I realize I just need to trust them to do it because they can, just not in the way that I do it. And that's in ministry too, where I was over something or doing worship or whatever the case may be. And I was just like complaining because I didn't have help. And when the help came, I didn't really want their help because I didn't like the way they did it. And so it's truly, that is truly a learning curve for yourself. You have to have grace with yourself and you have to learn to let go. That's a part of the boundaries. You have to learn to let go and release it, because then they won't learn to do the job even better if you don't let them do the job in the first place.
Exactly. Yes. And you have to give them grace to make mistakes because like Jess, you were saying before, part of the learning process is failing. And if I come and scoop up all the jobs because I'm worried that you're going to fail, then honestly, I've had some stuff that have worked for us that have been like, great, let's give it to Auntie Autumn because she just takes care of it all and it's easy for her to do. And then they end up not being able to do very basic parts of their job description because I've not let them do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's actually been in having children where I've recognized that my capacity is not what it used to be. And I've had to say, I honestly can't do it. And that's actually shown me, oh my gosh, they can. I just haven't let them. Oh my goodness.
Just haven't let them.
Yeah.
A team is very important.
It's a team is very so helpful. Yeah.
I've been telling Jess I don't know how we're going to do this because we literally can't afford an assistant, but we really need one because we have our separate stuff and then we have our stuff together, and the stuff together we're doing on our own. And so even building the conference, I'm like, it would be so helpful if we had someone who was managing some of these things and getting some of these things done when we're working or when we don't have the time to do it. But I'm just like, okay, God, provide, because that's a desire. And I feel like it's a real need. And a team is very vital to the success of anything, I think. So you're right. It's just letting go and getting the people to do it.
And winning the lottery. I think that's the next step.
And winning the lottery.
We had a whole episode about that. What we would do with our winnings, I think, was the conversation we had. But yeah, definitely, winning the lottery would be great. I would definitely quit my job and go full force into what we're doing. I mean, honestly, that's what we both want to do eventually. It's just we can't afford to yet. So here we are.
As the Lord moves,
we're just gonna keep praying it in. We're gonna keep praying it in.
Amen.
Because my heart is, if I ever did win a lottery, and this is a little insight, you guys are talking about right now. You guys are in the midst of that fundraiser for new desks for the classrooms at City of Refuge, and I'm like, desks. Let's not stop there. Like, I'm like in my brain, I'm like, if I ever won the lottery, shoot,
let's go
flying.
We have a whole new school.
You don't even know, like,
for sure.
Like, it's one of those things that I love what you guys are doing there, and I love those kids. I've never met any of them, and I just see their pictures, and like, I love how God is using you,
and they look so happy.
But that I was telling actually the story on Sunday at church. We were talking about the song "No Longer Slaves," and a couple years back, you sent out that CD of that you had recorded of the kids singing it. And when I tell you that I sobbed like a little girl when I put that CD into my car and I heard that song for the first time, because it's one thing to hear that song, it's a beautiful song, "No Longer a Slave to Fear, I'm a Child of God," but then to hear kids who had been in that situation and come out of it, and then hear them sing, like,
It was just a powerful season of worship, where I think even in worship,
man. It was amazing.
God was totally doing a lot of freeing.
I love that.
And yeah, that was a really sweet season. I mean, it's interesting because God, like, we're not really in that season right now, where we're seeing God free through worship, maybe through other things, but
right.
Yeah, that was a really sweet season. Yeah. So I'm glad that you could sense what God was doing just by listening to that.
That's wonderful.
Like, context
it was a powerful season.
I think we so often just jump into the things that we can do and we forget to sit and rest. And to rest in that song and to rest in all of those things and see what he's doing is just a really cool thing. So
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I completely agree with that. That's great stuff. That's good stuff. I like that.
Well, ladies, I've got to start wrapping up. My kiddos are getting ready for dinner, and it's getting close to 6:00 here now.
Goodness.
We've been chatting and just, enjoying every second. But I want to ask, tell people what you guys have going on. We've talked a little bit about it. Joy's got her book. We have a conference coming. Give dates and information so that people can follow along. Instagram stuff, Facebook stuff, so people can follow along what you guys are up to.
Sure.
Go for it, Jess.
You can find us at joyandjess.com. That's joyandjess.com. And from there, you'll find our podcast, We Digress with Joy and Jess. And then there'll be links to all of our other stuff. We're also on Instagram at We Digress with Joy_Jess, because Instagram handles are hard. And, and from there, you'll find links to Crafted, which is our women's conference that's coming up. By God's grace, it's going to happen in March of 2023. Yes, we are hopeful.
That's right.
Thank the Lord.
And so the first conference is going to be a virtual conference, we believe. And so that will enable anybody from wherever you're listening to participate. So that's kind of what's going on with that. You can find Joy at joysimpson.com. And her book, Beautiful, The New Definition of Beauty, is available there. It's on Amazon. You can get it in print or in digital format. What else you got going on?
That's it. I'm working on the digital format. I mean, the vocal audible format. Recording an audible book is a lot of work. It's harder than
that's what I've heard.
recording a song, truthfully.
Yeah.
But I'm working on that. She told you about the book and where to find it and find me. Instagram at beautyflawedme, TikTok at beautyflawedme. I try to post videos once a week. Some days it doesn't, some weeks it doesn't happen. Just a few minutes of encouragement to share. Sometimes it's super transparent moments of even things that I'm going through that God has shown me. So we do that. And like she said, Crafted prayerfully will be coming up in March. And we're looking forward to that. One of the things I said is I believe it's been such a struggle because of what God's going to do with it. And so when there is something that he really has, that he's intentional about in your life, it's not going to be always an easy thing to produce. But when it does happen, it happens and it's great. So I'm looking forward to it. And we're hopefully it will be available to everyone. So you can check that out, but just keep going to our websites and things like that. And yeah, that's about it.
Updated. Yeah.
And we are excited that you're going to be a part of it as well, Autumn. Like, that's really cool. So excited.
Yeah. Yes, that is
so
wonderful.
I know. I remember when the dates first came out, I was like on top of it. I wrote out my stuff and then I'm like, okay, that whole thing's got to change because my whole life is different from when you guys first started talking about it. So,
So
we're actually going back. We were talking about how we have to go back and look at the different topics and things like that and see what needs to be reworked and reach out to the speakers again, because life has changed truly for not just you, but for everyone since then. So
the whole world has changed since COVID. So
so it's going to be very interesting, I think. And I'll keep you guys posted when the children's books are out. So
yes, do.
That's the next thing. So yeah.
Okay. So I have 2 questions that I close out with. Okay. So the first one is, in the spirit of the in-between, what is one thing that God is teaching you right now?
Oh man. In the spirit of the in-between, I think for me, he is teaching me that it's always, that as the in-between is journey, right? That the in-between by nature means that they're a beginning and an end of the journey. And as you near the end of the in-between in whatever season that you find yourself in, that's when it gets the hardest. And as you move and get closer to it, as he starts to bring chapters to a close, begin new chapters, whatever that looks like, that it almost gets harder because you're wanting to see all the things line up and they come slowly. So as they start to come in, that's when you have to really continue to trust in and lean in and have grace for yourself. That's been the season for me. It's just having grace for myself because I think that I should be so much more mature or better about the circumstances that I've been through in the last 2 years. And God is saying, no, you're fine. Like, this is okay. I understand. Like, you're operating from where you can and you're doing what you can and I'm going to fill in the rest. And that's okay. So I think that's what he's teaching me right now.
That's good.
That was good. That was really good. I think for me, the in between, I agree, same journey, but how to trust God even more. It's not that I don't trust him, but to trust what he's given to me, but also trust that he will not forsake me. Trust that he will do all that he said and more, and trust that he will bring me through the in-between stages that I'm in. There is a lot of questions of relationship, not just friendship, but wanting to be in a relationship for marriage. There's a lot of question on how to, of my job and whether to leave or not. And it is some of those things I am a little fearful about if I admit it to myself. So I'm learning in this season to trust him and trust his guidance and to truly let him lead so that I don't make some of the mistakes of my past.
That's so good. Tough, but good. Yeah, that's good.
For
I
sure.
love hearing that. Okay, a fun way to close things up. What is something that really makes you laugh?
Oh, okay. Go, Jess.
Okay, so this was a funny thing that happened this morning. I give piano lessons. I have 2 students right now, and brother and sister, and they are the sweetest, coolest, cutest kids. But this morning we had an entire conversation about picking your nose and eating it.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Kids are the best.
That.
They're gross, but they're the best.
Oh man, they are. I think she's 5, and she was just having a full conversation. She might be 6. Like a full conversation about. They went to the zoo. They saw a monkey do something funny, and she was laughing about it. And I said, one time I went and I saw a gorilla picking its nose and eating it, and then she had a whole conversation about the texture and flavor of eating your own boogers. And I want to tell you that I try so hard to be like a teacher that just is like
hilarious,
affirming them and stuff. But when I tell you, I laughed so hard in lessons today.
Goodness.
Had nothing to do with piano, but it was fun.
Mine's totally not that great. Like that's pretty awesome. I mean, I have so many stories about my students that we could literally be here another hour. But I will say, it's actually one of my favorite TV shows right now that makes me laugh so much. It's so mindless and so crazy and out of it that like far reach that you have to laugh. And it's called Ghost. And it's about this couple who she inherited a great aunt's like big mansion in like Connecticut area, and it's like an old house, and it's like all these ghosts that live there from the past that died in this house and haven't made it to their final destination. And it's so funny because it has like their different stories and what happened to them and what they're used to. You have somebody from the 80s, you have somebody a Viking from like the 1700s, you have like a Boy Scout leader who accidentally got shot with an arrow, so he lives with an arrow in his neck.
Oh my
because
gosh.
that's how he died. And the wife, she fell when she first came to this place, and they're turning it into a bed and breakfast. And
oh no,
she falls, and she can see all these ghosts and communicate with them. This is so not godly at all, but it's so funny. And she can communicate with them, but the husband, he can't see them. And like, he's like, okay, are you talking to the ghost again? Like, it's just one of those, like, you have a jazz singer from the 1920s who's just like this flamboyant person. Then you have like this 70s, like, she died in a cult that was on the grounds. And then you have there's a guy from like the Alexander Hamilton era, and he's like, what do you mean there's a musical about Hamilton? He didn't do anything in the field, and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's a whole thing. Oh, gosh. And it's so funny. It comes on Thursday nights. You can find it on Paramount and Hulu on streaming. It is so funny. It's called Ghost, and it's hilarious. It's just...
That's awesome.
It's hilarious. It has the guy from Pitch Perfect. I don't know if you guys ever seen Pitch Perfect, the Indian guy that would rap all the time.
Oh yeah.
He's the husband in the show, and he's hysterical. And one of his best friends
so funny.
is the ghost, because they love Dungeons and Dragons, but the wife has to play it because the ghost, he can't see him or talk to him, or the ghost can't touch it. So it's hilarious.
That's amazing.
You might have to watch it, actually.
That's just funny. One of those like mindless middle of the week things that you just sit and watch and laugh. Like, that's literally.
I just need a break. Let me put that on. Yeah,
that's what
awesome.
it is, and it's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. And there's no vulgar language or anything. It's just dead people.
Yeah, just dead people talking.
Just dead people talking,
as it should be.
You're right.
It's great.
That's awesome. Oh, this has been so good, ladies. I have so much fun catching up, and I mean, I know that we chat a lot anyway, but it's fun to see your faces and get to talk about deeper things. Great.
If you are a regular listener of We Digress with Joy and Jess, you have got to check out the Storied in Between.
Story in Between, yes.
And we'll put a link in the description so that you can catch that. But great conversations with amazing people and really intentional.
Absolutely.
And usually not nearly as long as this one was.
This might be a two-parter. Who knows?
You can't stop old friends from chatting.
No, you cannot.
It's hard to do for sure. Definitely.
Thanks for listening. Check us out on the web at joyandjess.com. That's JoyandJess.com. We'll see you next week.